Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Well, actually, I live in Delaware now, so does that make me a Delawarean?
Sing it, girl.
You know, Beyonce is my friend in my head. They my people sometimes, too.
Yeah. I mean, be true, man.
You know, when I was a kid, I had an imaginary enemy. Like, does that make me crazy?
Life as P, presented by Say What Radio.
Hello, welcome to Life is P. I'm your host, Phoenix Ash. If this is the first time you're joining me, thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I appreciate you giving us a listen. I say us because I have multiple personalities, I think, or I'm just so accustomed to saying us. I don't know. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for checking in. If you're a repeat listener, I appreciate you still being there, hearing me out, sharing what's going on in your life. Thank you to everyone who's shooting up my DMs and talking about how the podcast is impacting you and your new ways of execution and trying to find your way through your journey. I appreciate the exchange. I'm glad that you look at me as someone to talk to. I appreciate it because y'all definitely the people I talk to. And I got a lot to say because I'm always running my mouth. But I want to talk to you guys today about your ego, or rather about mine, honestly. So I wrote this story and it's part of a series, and I decided not to submit what I thought was my ready version to my publisher. Instead, I was going to send it to a reader first. And sometimes when I send stories to the publisher, it goes to the editor and it goes to a reader. But I wanted to do some pre-work. So I sent it to my reader and she had feedback. And not just the regular, like, fix this word here or fix the spelling here. But she said something that truly shifted me. She said, this story reads as though it was off limits to you. It's a really good story, but there's something that feels like you feel like you're not supposed to tell it. And that spoke to me because I do have some stories where I'm very apprehensive about telling them because they're so true to life. They're so close to my own experiences or the experiences of the people around me. And there's pieces of me hidden in everything that I write, everything. Whether it's how I view myself, what fears I've had, what challenges I've faced, the personalities of the people I've come into contact with. There's pieces of me and pieces of my life in every single thing that I write. I mean, it could be my hopes, my aspirations, my dreams. When I wrote Delectable, I was trying to design what I thought would be a great guy for me. I was trying to make myself fall in love with him because I was like, well, what am I particularly? I've talked to you guys about I'm going through a divorce and I've kind of checked out the marriage kind of earlier on from when we actually agreed to divorce. So I'm at the stage now where my mind is starting to be open a little bit and want to think about possibly dating, and I'm interested in something. I need something. But I was trying to write, how would that something come about? Who would that be? How would they treat me? How would they talk to me? What kind of man would they be? And that's why I chose the character of the police officer, because without going into several layers, and I know this is not a great time, right? Nobody wants to hear about a police officer falling in love, given all the stuff that's happening. But the reason why I chose that profession for the character was because without going through pages and pages of description, trying to build this person up to be a stand-up guy, if I start with that, there's certain stipulations, certain stereotypes that come with the job. And then when I build who he is in relation to his job and how he views his job and how he views his community, it's a quicker way to get a rounder picture without giving you guys all the fluff that you'd have to read through. But I was really trying to think about, like, the guy that I would be interested in would be a stand-up guy, someone who is faithful, who's true, but who's passionate and has his head on his shoulders and has a understanding of the calling on his life, and where the man and the woman in the story would just add to each other and help each other be great. Hopefully that's what you read into it. Hopefully I executed that. But anyway, so I'm like writing the story and having the feedback of it seems like it's off limits. You know, her edits were great. I was able to go back in and make corrections based on her edits. But that simple piece of feedback right there was like, okay, I'm not just going to make little fixes. I'm going to go in and I'm going to read from the beginning. And I'm going to enhance this thing and I'm going to make it. Maybe I did feel like it was off limits. Maybe I was apprehensive about telling these parts of the story because it's not the genre that people know me for. It's not a romance book. It's definitely dramatic, but it's more urban street drama. So it's just not what people know me for. And although it's based off of a story that I've told several ways, several times, and trying to perfect it and get it right. I've been telling the story for years. I mean, I was telling it to myself mostly, but I've been telling the story for years. And it's probably the one that I know best, but I wasn't communicating that. And I feel like a couple years ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle that kind of feedback. It would have been very devastating. I would have been like, oh my God, I don't write as well as I think I do. I don't tell a story as well as I think I do. Why am I doing this? But now that I've grown, and honestly, now that I've had some accomplishments, right? Like accomplishments help fuel your belief in what it is that you do. Like I got some stuff under the belt. A couple years ago, I didn't have a publishing deal. Look, I'm not going to lie, as a writer, that does a lot for your confidence. Like, okay, somebody else thinks I can write. And you guys have been great with reading the books and leaving reviews and talking to me in my inbox about stories and what to do next and how we can help each other. So I think I'm in a different place where I can receive the feedback that says, do another draft. Because that's basically what it was. Do another draft. You're almost there. It's good. Now go make it great. And I think we need those love taps to our ego. We do. It's hard to swallow in the moment, but if we could look past ourselves, it's beneficial. No one's like really giving it to try to tear us down, particularly when it's feedback we wanted. She wasn't trying to tear me down. She's the person who is my reader. Outside of being my reader, she is the biggest battery pack that anybody could have. She'd be so charged. So no, I don't think she was trying to hurt my feelings. She was trying to say, I know you have better in you. Now go get it. There's a certain way that I write that sometimes is viewed as poetic, but I can interrupt those things with other words, with extra words, or with trying to make things more understandable for someone who may not be receiving the poetry in the moment or may not be hearing my voice read it and can't catch the connotation in my tone. And sometimes I over-explain. I mean, I'm a talker, I'm a writer, and sometimes I don't get it right, or I'm so worried about getting it right that I get it slightly wrong. It's not all the way wrong. It hasn't taken a complete left turn, but it's veering. So now, of course, I got to do another draft. But I'm actually excited to work on it because I feel like I have new perspective. I have focus. And because I've already written a draft, my thing is just do it the one time. If I could ever get past the first draft, I'm good. I'm good. Because once I get past the first draft, then I have stuff to edit. And that's when the real writing happens, is when I edit. That's when you pull all the juicy, beautiful words and beautiful scenes and you picture what it looks like. The first draft, you just kind of tell the story so that you have it documented of what happened. Sometimes the first draft, you get some real gems in there, but nah, my joint be oof. And I didn't send my first draft to the reader. You know, that was maybe like my second or third draft. So I need a third or fourth. Just got to accept it. The book may not come out when I want it to, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm going to work on it. But how many times has someone tried to love tap your ego and you've completely rejected it? So many times we are quick to say, oh, they're just hating. They're just mad at me because. But do you ever run out of the because? When you stop and say, oh, they're just hating, they just don't want me to shine. Like, what if there's no because? Like, do you make one up? Do you start pulling stuff from the past? Do you start referencing their interactions with other people? Do you start whispering in your own ear, using the words of people who have said things about this person or whose experience with this person is totally different from yours, and build yourself a picture in order to not accept that you might need work? I don't know about you guys, but I've done that so many times where it's just like, either do that or I overbelieve and I tear myself down, and then my friends will be like, oh, they was just hating or whatever. And I've caught myself having to tell friends from a time or two, like, listen, particularly now that I can take the feedback, I've had friends that I've had to tell, don't immediately assume that this person is hating. Don't immediately assume that this person isn't out for my best interest, because I can see the value in what they're saying. And I may not use everything they're saying, but there are pieces there that I can definitely utilize to make myself and make my work better. So I don't want to jump to the conclusion that this person has some ill will towards me and they mean malice when they say the things that they say. And I feel like that's growth. That's growth that I accept, that I've put in the work for. But I want to know, like, how are you moving past that? Like, is everybody who doesn't agree with what you do, is everybody who gives feedback that isn't strictly praise, is everybody a hater? Or is somebody trying to find a way to motivate you to go to the next level? Are you just so comfortable at the level you're at? Like, well, I've been producing this work at this level, doing this thing for this long. And if this person don't think I'm the bomb, then they crazy. Like, look, sometimes that's not even what the feedback culminates to. It's not even that they don't think you're the bomb. Sometimes it just means that they do think you're the bomb, but you're not exploding. And they're like, come on, take the pin out. Let's go. I don't know. I felt like it was something that needed to be addressed, and I needed to speak to the issue, because if you're anything like me, you've had a lot of years where you wasn't sure what to do with tough feedback. I never could receive tough feedback. It would either make me cry or make me angry. It might do both. I'd be like, my first bad review, I was like, this mother sucker right here. I was annoyed, frustrated. You don't understand. I questioned your education level. All of that. But at the end of the day, if I sweep all of that away and I truly listen to the words that someone has said, and I just search for the value and see if there's something that is there for me, I can just use it and be better. And why not be better? Why not? We need taps to our ego. We need the love taps. We need to be around people who are going to be raw and honest with us. We don't grow. If everyone just praises everything that you do and everything that you've ever said or ever written, or every road you've ever walked is just so great, you're just so wonderful, and there's nobody like you, and you're so incredible, it's never a flaw, you stay in the same place. And although the tough feedback is hard to swallow, it's necessary for our growth. It's necessary for our greatness. Our greatness isn't negated because there's tough feedback. Our greatness is being yanked out of us. It's saying, level up. Come on, I know it's in there. Level up and let's get to it. If people didn't think that you had the ability to go to the next level, they wouldn't be pushing so hard. They wouldn't be rooting so hard. It's disappointing to see someone deny their greatness and their ability to be superb because they can't handle you not praising them. So I don't want to be one of those people. And I'm grateful for the friends that I have who are just raw and like, listen, this story is good, but it's not great yet. Here's my suggestion of what would make it great. Here's the true feeling that I get when I read this story. You know, I have a girlfriend that I see regularly that I'm able to read to her what I'm working on. We call it story time. We sit there like, all right, story time. Sometimes it's in the middle of the day. I go through it. And we have discussions about, she's not a writer. She's purely a reader. And she'll tell me, I kind of think this should have came before that. Or this wasn't as moving as something else that you've written or whatever. And sometimes I take it and sometimes I'm like, well, maybe you just don't understand how things go. But then I get a reader who's on the other side who is a writer and says, there are parts in here where you're losing connection. Oh, so the other reader was making sense. She just couldn't verbalize what it was that was missing or that was happening. But her feedback was valid. And it's supported by someone else who they don't know each other, but they're getting the same vibe. So I can either decide that that's the vibe, or I can say, well, you know what? Let me clean this up a bit. Let me be a little more intentional. I know that I'm not going to be able to dictate every feeling that every reader is going to have when they read my work. However, I'm also not afraid to go back to the drawing board and clean it up a little bit. Because when the reader does have whatever feeling, whether they love it, hate it, feel like it's lukewarm, whatever, it's important to me that that was the best thing that I could put out at the time. Because I took it wasn't just my opinion. I wasn't in my bubble. I took some feedback. And I found the gems and the value of the feedback and I utilized it and I made my work better. And so whatever version you're going to receive on the market is the best that I could have done. So if you hate it, I'm okay with you hating it because it's the best I could have done. If you love it, I'm ecstatic that you love it because it's the best I could have done. But when I give it, it's going to be the best. It's going to be the best that I have in me. But I can't do that if I'm so focused on me, myself, and got my head inside my ass that I can't hear any chitter chatter outside of it. I need, particularly with writing, if you're constantly writing, which I am, I'm constantly writing. You want to not tell the story 100 times over using different names and calling it a different book. You want to create unique characters. You want to be true to yourself. But you need to be aware. It's important to be aware. I mean, in anything. I have worked with this girl that was the most non-self-aware person ever. And it was frustrating. It was so frustrating. She had no idea how people on the team took her. And she would say things that you were certain that she had no idea how she was being received. And it was sad. And when you did try to give her some feedback or when you did try to say something other than an ego stroke, she got angry. She was upset. She would storm off. And sometimes she would just do the opposite of what you said or do her own thing anyway and look like an ass later. But I don't want to be that person. I want to be self-aware, understand how I'm being received, and make changes that I feel are important. Because if it's not in line with my intentions, I'm trying to get my presentation, I'm trying to get as close to my intention as possible. Like I said, I can't control how everybody receives it or how everybody reads it, but I know I can control what I put out there. And so it needs to be as close to my intentions as possible, because there may come a time where I have to defend it. And not defend it like I'm not one of those writers who's going to be talking back and forth in the reviews saying, well, you didn't understand. And if you go and give me a 2 rating, why you didn't just put it down and you shouldn't have read it? Nah, I'm not going back and forth with you about nothing. When I say defend it to myself. When I take a reader's feedback and do the same thing, evaluate it. Is there value in this? Is there something in it that will help me on my next try? But if it's just straight they out to get me, and there are some reviewers who are like that. There are other publishing companies jumping to the writers of other publishing companies to make sure that they catch a rating that'll take them out of 5-star status. But it ain't that serious to me. So y'all tripping. Those probably the same people who naked on Instagram right now. But whatever. What I'm saying is you need love taps to your ego. And rather than consider everyone a hater because they don't agree or their thoughts aren't in line with yours, Think about what value may be presented. Think about the person's true intention, what you believe their true intention is. Don't paint this picture that's based on a bunch of other outside stuff because you're just trying to protect your feelings. It's going to hurt for the moment, but once you get past it and you utilize the gems that were offered to you, you're going to soar and you're going to be so thankful for it. So anyway, that's my spiel. That's what it is. If you are interested in Delectable, it is available on Amazon Books as well as Kindle. My books, Soil Sheets, as well as Cookies and Crumbles, are also available on Amazon Books and Kindle. In Her Makeup, my first novel ever, is available on Amazon Books, Kindle, as well as audiobook and Apple Books. So please pick it up. Make sure you leave a review. Let me know what you think. You could join my reader group on Facebook. It's Phoenix Fireflies, and that's Fire, Fiyah. Yo, come party with us, talk to us, let us know what the deal is. I check on you from time to time. If you are in quarantine and you dealing with limited people and you think it's nice to have somebody check on you, definitely join up in a group. We check on each other. We want to see how you doing. You can join the BLP Cove, which is Beloved Publications Cove. We have book discussions, there's videos, there's games, there's questions, there's giveaways. We're into all of that. If you're interested in the other shows that I sometimes put on my Instagram stories, like with the finance and the holistic show, definitely tune in to Say What Radio on all your streaming platforms. I'm talking Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Apple Podcasts. Join the network, pick your fave, listen to us, chat with us, talk to us, message us. Let's get involved. Let's connect. Until the next time when we can exchange power, I hope you're well. Peace.